soil sciences, which is why I'm back here working with all these plants in the land. So most of my job is kind of taking care of those plants back there, working on harvesting, working on putting new crops out there. The other part of my job, though, is these tours, so giving educational tours to guests that would like to learn more about hydroponics and how to start their own system. So a little bit of what the land is doing here, though. When you think of Disney, you don't necessarily pop into agriculture. So what does the Epcot stand for? Does anyone know what it stands for?
Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow.
Excellent. Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. So Walt's goal with this was to have the city of about 20,000 people, and they were going to have the best technology. So whether it was through agriculture, like here at the land, whether it was the fastest cars, like over at Test Track, or even the best in home appliances. So people from around the world were going to be able to come to this city and see how that technology can be taken back to their own communities. So that idea kind of got revamped a little bit by those Imagineers, and so we have the two portions of Epcot. We have Future World, so here, the land, the seas, all those good things. And then we also have the World Showcase, so all those different cultures coming together to kind of share those ideas between people. So that's what we are here. We are those innovations in agriculture. Right now we're focusing on hydroponics in our greenhouse, but we also do things like our IPM and our biotechnology. We're actually going to start off in IPM. So you're currently walking into our IPM lab. So IPM stands for Integrated Pest Management. So that is dealing with those ways to get rid of those bugs or those bad things that we don't want in our greenhouse, those pathogens. Mostly we're focusing on things like insects, because obviously insects are a problem for our greenhouses. If we have bugs all over our food, then we can't actually give that to the restaurants. We wouldn't want to give our guests any bug-infested foods or anything like that. So instead we have to work on kind of controlling those insects that we're dealing with in our greenhouses to where that we are making sure we have a safe product for our guests to consume throughout our restaurants. It's also another thing of our plants actually grow a lot better, obviously, if they're not being attacked by bugs. There's not only bad bugs, there are in fact good bugs. So we actually have good bugs that we use in our greenhouses to take care of our bad bugs for us. So that's a form of biological control. So there's lots of different ways to do IPM. Biological control is one of them. There are also things like cultural and mechanical controls. So cultural control is where you basically prune the plants enough to where bugs aren't jumping from one leaf to another. You don't want those touching leaves, that way the bugs just can't keep running all around. Or even things like mechanical control, so when you guys walk up to a bug and you squish it. I don't like getting that close to bugs personally, but that's just me. That is one of the methods that we use. We also occasionally use chemical control. We try to reduce the amount of pesticides that we use in our greenhouses. However, that is something that we take very seriously. We take all the precautions along the way if we have to use those. But we like to use some of these biological controls here, like the one I'm going to show you in our video. So like I said, not every bug is a bad bug, there are some good bugs. So this video kind of shows you how some of those bad bugs and good bugs interact. This one on the screen is our leaf miner fly. So our leaf miner fly is one of those good bugs that we're talking about. So that leaf miner fly is going to fly around, it's going to land on the leaf, and she's going to lay her egg inside the leaf. So if you imagine the leaf like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you got your top layer and your bottom layer, your bread. And then that inside is that really good stuff, that peanut butter and jelly that bugs want to eat. So she's going to lay her egg right inside that peanut butter and jelly layer to where when it grows up, it can eat around through that entire section, growing nice and strong. So once that part happens, that bug is actually going to grow up inside of that middle layer there. So it's become a larvae and it'll move around through the inside of the leaf. We can't really see the bug that much itself, but we can see the damage that it causes. Because as it's moving around, it's actually pickaxing its way through that green section or that chlorophyll. So it's actually taking out portions of the leaf as it's moving through that area. So once we are seeing the damage there, what we're seeing is those railroad tracks basically of where that entire leaf miner larvae went to. So that'll pop up on the screen. This is about an 8-day time-lapse video. So we're at about day 3, day 4. You can see those trails that are starting to pop up right now. By the time you get to day 8, your plant has been completely destroyed. That's what your garden looks like, and you can't use that anymore. However, we have our hero in this situation. We have our parasitoid wasp. So our parasitoid wasp, I know that word does not sound like a hero, but in our case it is. So she's going to follow those railroad tracks along, and she's going to lay her egg inside the leaf miner fly. So you have a good bug egg inside of a bad bug. So that one is going to do that. She's going to send off a little scent saying, don't worry, I've got this leaf miner fly. You don't have to come here and plant another one inside of here. So that leaf miner fly is going to grow up. It's not really sure that that parasitoid wasp is inside of there, so it's going to keep living its life. It's going to grow up and it's going to fall out of the leaf and onto the ground. Normally, that leaf miner fly would have grown up into a big bug and caused damage throughout the greenhouses. However, in our case, we have that hero, that little parasitoid wasp inside there. So that parasitoid wasp will grow up, it will cut its way out of the leaf miner fly, taking care of not only that leaf miner fly, but then also reproducing and taking care of others in the greenhouses for us. Pretty brutal stuff. Nature can be gruesome sometimes. However, we're actually raising up some of those good bugs here. So we start off, we've got our just normal lima bean plants, and we release our leaf miner flies, or our bad bugs inside of there. We allow them to lay their eggs inside of the leaf. Once that happens, they actually end up causing a bit of damage. You guys can pass those around and kind of see those railroad tracks I was talking about. So once those eggs are inside, we're actually going to move to the next set of cages. We will release those parasitoid wasps. So those parasitoid wasps are actually going to lay their eggs inside of those leaf miner flies. And then finally, we'll move to one step further into the shelf contraption. And we will allow those leaf miner flies with the parasitoid wasp inside of them to fall out of the leaf and onto this cup that we have here. So what we catch inside of these cups are very tiny golden eggs, basically. Those are the leaf miner larvae with the parasitoid wasp inside of them. So in a few days, those parasitoid wasps will cut their way out, and you will have a cup full of parasitoid wasps, and then discarded leaf miner flies.
Will those ones still grow, or are those ones dead now?
Those are now dead. They've cut out. They are now no longer able to cause destruction through our greenhouses. So what we do with those parasitoid wasps, we actually will take that cup, we will release that top part, release those in our greenhouses. So they take care of our leaf miner flies for us. Some of them get to stick around here and kind of keep that breeding process going. Those parasitoid wasps that are in that cup right there, they're very small. They're not like the big wasp that you're thinking of. They are very small. They have stingers, but they can't even pierce your skin. They're kind of a modified stinger. So they'll be flying around you in the greenhouse and you'll never realize it. We have some other examples of IPM, things like ladybugs. Those are pretty common ones to see around. They take care of things like aphids and scales for us. And then we also have things like beneficial mites. I'll try to show you some of those along the way on our tour so we can see some of those in the greenhouse. Has everyone gotten a chance to see those parasitoid wasps?
It's not a shock.
Any questions about anything happening in IPM here? What we do in our greenhouses with insects? If not, I'm going to set this down and then we're going to head out to our biotechnology lab. We even have some new constructs that will be coming up within the next few months or so. Very, very early stages of the projects, but things like seedless strawberries. So we're kind of in a transition stage of what's actually going to be going on in here, but it's going to be definitely working on some of those better traits for plums and strawberries. Our second project we have going on here is at that bottom table right there. Those are our Mickey's Mini Gardens. So Mickey's Mini Gardens are a form of tissue culture. So you have a big plant, you take a cutting off of it, and then you place it inside of that jar right there. If you look very closely, at the bottom of that jar, you'll see a kind of jello-like substance. It's called agar. It's 95% water. The rest of it is things like sugars, hormones, nutrients, all those good things plants need to survive. So if you guys were to purchase one of these, what you do, take it home with you, let it grow those roots out, get nice and tall inside of that jar, and then you can transplant it wherever you would like to. So whether that's outside in your backyard, or whether that's in your pot on your windowsill. So we sell things like kalanchoe, celosia, those are our big sellers, but we also have things like dragon fruits, even things like vanilla sometimes. So a wide variety of plants that we sell with those tissue cultures. Any questions on what's happening in biotechnology?
What is the purpose of creating fruit without seeds?
So that's kind of more of a consumer-based, that's a consumer-driven research project. So for example, things like seedless watermelons. Do they necessarily do anything for the plant? Not really, but consumers were asking for those because it was kind of more of an annoyance for them to have to kind of spit out those seeds, do those types of things with it. So similarly, it's just kind of a consumer-driven research that has happened of certain consumers would rather have seedless varieties of strawberries so they're not having to worry about that. Yes?
Most seedless watermelons have less flavor than regular.
Yes.
Would it be the same with the strawberry?
So that could be potentially another thing. When you're working with certain types of research projects like that, different types of varieties, when you're only working with one trait that you're working on. However, sometimes it does have a little bit of effects onto other things. So that could potentially be a project that would have an issue with that, of kind of reducing that flavor if they did take those seeds out. Hydroponics is growing plants without the use of chemicals. So you won't find any dirt in this greenhouse. Instead, you'll find something similar to squash right here. So we're actually growing those up in the air. So what happens is they're being strung around on top of that hole right there, they are moving through the system, including sprayers with water and nutrients inside of them. You guys can actually step up and look inside of there. You can hear the sprayers right now. You can actually look inside. Be careful with the water nutrients. Those water nutrients are being sprayed onto those roots. They're being allowed to air out to the entire system. They have that nice sort of sunshine for you across the top. We actually grow our squashes in the system. We grow lots of things like Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, kale, and these types of systems as well. Very similar system, the more of a closed area, is this hollow pots right there. So hollow pots are basically a hollow lead or hollow PVC pipes. Those arms hold the smaller plants inside there, and those roots will grow out into that middle hollow section. The hollow pots are normally moving around, and they are actually being sprayed with water throughout the entire system as they need to, similar to the squash. However, here we actually just have them kind of running on irrigation right now. So it's a very similar system, like I said, to squash, just more enclosed. So these conveyor belt systems are really cool. They're really great hydroponic systems. You can grow lots of different things on them. However, most people in their backyards don't exactly have this giant conveyor belt system. So if you're looking for something more for those home hydroponics use, I would look at these vertigrows. So the vertigrows, what we're growing with in here is actually volcanic rock. I'll show you what that looks like on the other side, but inside of here is actually perlite. Kind of looks like Dippin' Dots. So the water nutrients flow into that top pot right there. There's holes at the bottom, so they'll keep flowing through the entire system. So we're able to grow all of our violas and pansies in these in just 1 square foot of space. In a normal system, if your garden you're talking about, you can grow maybe 3 or 4 plants here. Here we can grow 80 or more depending on what we're actually putting inside of here. It's not just the violas and pansies, you can grow lots of different things in these systems. We had kale up here at one point, we've got some mini curry right now, we've had tomatoes in the past in these types of systems, so lots of different things you can grow in these vertigrow systems. We're also growing things in the water, so if you look across the way, you have our aquaponics system. So aquaponics over there, that is the fish are actually providing the nutrients for the plants. That water is pumped up to the top and it slides down those entire NFT trays. And then the plants kind of filter that out for the fish to actually use so they can swim around. If you want to come across to the other side, come over here, shake hands, say hello. He does not bite. This is one you're allowed to touch. So Stanley is a touch-sensitive plant. So anytime you touch his leaves, they will actually close up on you. His official name is Mimosa pudica, but he's got lots of names: touch-me-nots, tickle-me-nots, all those good things. Basically, it's a defense mechanism, so when a bug lands on his leaves, he doesn't want that bug on there, so he will close those leaves up. In about 5 to 10 minutes, we'll open back up again and he'll be just as brand new.
How many types of plants like this are there?
There are quite a few different types of touch-sensitive plants. Stanley's not the only one in the world. You can find them in a lot of different environments too.
We have them in Puerto Rico, but I don't know if it's the same one.
Yeah.
But I remember as a child just poking them.
Yeah. There's different types of them along the way. There's different types of mimosas that are also touch-sensitive. There's quite a few out there. I've heard of touch-sensitive plants, in things like Ecuador, Hawaii, lots of different places. Even in Oklahoma, where I went to school at, that's where they actually had some of those touch-sensitive plants. Violas and pansies, which right now are being used around the festival. So for that flower and garden festival, those violet lemonades, that's what we are harvesting those for right now. But anything else in our greenhouses, our chefs can come around and ask for whatever they would like to, and then you guys can come through and kind of get with produce roosters in here. We have things like the rock wool to the left of it. So that's more of that cotton candy looking mixture. They're basically forms of volcanic rock. So they have 2 different processes going on with them. So we start our plants in that rock wool, and then we'll eventually put them into perlite. So most of the things we're seeing around, they have both rock wool and perlite. So these are those vertigrows I was talking about. So that's kind of the homeowner version. So the water nutrients are pumped from the bottom up to the top, and then they scroll all the way through. That's the foodie, another version of this, but basically a different shape, so you can put different types of plants in there. But we can make it even easier than that. We have this water bucket here. There's an air pump in the back aerating those roots, and then the roots are able to grow inside of the water there. This is just a normal styrofoam layer, and that plants are being held in with this rock wool. But we can take it one step further. So we have a fish tank that hasn't been used in 3 years. You can actually use that to grow your own food in your own homes. So that's an air pump back in there. So that basically is pumping those roots with air to where they're not kind of drowning in there. Then you got that styrofoam layer with that rock wool up top sitting in there, and that's how those plants are growing up top. You can put lots of different things in here. We used to have basil in here, but you can grow pretty much anything that's not too tall or anything that's not like a tuber. So anything like violas, pansies, that's where we've been growing things in here because we've been harvesting a lot of those. But things like thyme, basil, all those good things as well. Growing plants in kind of a different way using this string up here. So we string up the stems all the way up to the top and allow them to grow out across the canopy. Here we are growing bitter melons. There's actually a few right in the back there. So they start off that green color, they will ripen to a yellow color. They're used in a whole lot of stir fries and they have a very bitter taste from what I've told you. Not sure how bitter melons should, but that is how we are growing them up here. So we're actually growing them up to the top across that canopy. That way we can actually grow some plants below. So this entire canopy is going to be filled within the next few weeks, and then these plants are going to have as much light. So what we do is we have these raised beds with this LED lights underneath. So these are grow lights that allow our plants to kind of grow underneath, so we're really utilizing that space. That's kind of the focus of hydroponics. Utilizing your resources, utilizing your space as efficiently as possible. That way you can grow the most food everything. So that's what we're kind of focusing on, is how to kind of keep utilizing that space, keep utilizing those water and nutrients. We also have our lean and lower method for our tomatoes. So we string these tomatoes all the way up to the top. Once they get a little bit too tall, we don't chop them off though. We will lower that string down and lean it over. So it's really nice because all these tomatoes fall in one line across the entire row. And then you're able just to kind of sit down, scoot the entire way, and harvest across. So this plant starts right here. And it goes all the way down here. Wow. So that is just in about 5 months' time. It takes about 10 months to get all the way down to the canal. So at about 10 months after that, we will actually pull these tomatoes because it gets a little bit confusing with all of them wrapping around each other. However, we are able to grow our tomatoes for 10 months at a time in this system. We also have our salad spinners. So with these guys, the water and the nutrients flow from the top through those different arms. The rock wool is holding this plant in place, and those water and nutrients are flowing along the bottom. So we grow our lettuce 4 weeks at a time. So this is week 1. Down closer, kind of the second one from the canal is week 2. All the way down at the canal is week 3. Here is week 4. So week 4 we will start to pull those out. And then here we have those cucumbers that you guys tried in the next greenhouse over. So we've got 2 different methods for our cucumbers. Across the way, we grow them straight up with a string. We just kind of leave them there, chop them off at the top, and those cucumbers will grow off the side. Here what we're doing is we're growing them at an angle. So we're going to string them all the way up. But once they get to about here, we're actually going to drape those over. So they kind of look like umbrellas is what they're going to do. So we're able to have those lights be a little bit more utilizing that light distribution of how it's hitting, things like that. So we're able to kind of utilize that space a little bit better as well. But we also got to do fun things, kind of resemble our boss. So with these, what we do is we place them right inside of this Mickey mold right here, add a little bit of pixie dust, and that's how you get those shapes in here. So it's not just cucumbers, we've done things like eggplants before. We have some pretty famous Mickey pumpkins, so even pumpkins can be put into some of those larger molds. Down here, we have our NFT system. This is where we get all of our lettuce from. So NFT is a really simple system, that's why I like it so much. Starts off with a hollow rain gutter. That water and nutrients are going to pour down the entire system just like this. And they're going to come out across the other side. Those plants are being held together in these little squares by that rock wool I showed you before. In this system alone, we're able to grow 2,000 heads of lettuce each month. So we're harvesting 500 of them every single week here. It's really nice too, we're able to save a lot on water as well. So in a conventional system, say in Arizona, it would take about 12.5 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of lettuce. Here we're doing it at 2.5 gallons. We're actually recirculating that water. There's a little box at the canal, catches all the water, throws it up here, we filter it, cool it, and send it back down again. So this is where a lot of our lettuce that goes out to our restaurants actually comes from. We're growing our eggplants in 2 different ways as well. So across the canal, you can still kind of see it, there's our eggplant trees. So what we do is we string up those different stems, allow them to grow kind of in a big tree-like formation, and then those actual eggplants will come off just like an apple would off an apple tree. And then we have these systems right here, so we string them up all the way to the top and allow those different eggplants to actually go through that area. So those kind of keep popping off the sides. We've got a few different varieties of eggplants. We've got some fun ones right here that are more that circular, and we've got the ones that are like longer and skinnier ones. Different colors, different flavors for all of them. And then finally, we are at our winter melons. Our winter melons are Queen Elsa's favorite plant in the entire greenhouse. She comes here about once a week or so and thinks let it grow, and grow they do. So this one's about 40 pounds or so. What happens is these winter melons are strung all the way up to the top and then allowed to grow out across the canopy. So what happens is these winter melons will actually start forming down here on the bottom. Once you get a little bit bigger, we'll add a little bit of rope to them, that way they don't fall down to the ground. But we can grow them actually up to 90 pounds. So that winter melon, if you guys have seen it before, when you cut it open, kind of looks like a snowflake. Winter melons are really cool because around the world what you do is they're harvested at the beginning of winter, and then they actually keep through the entire winter. So people keep cutting off of them all winter long. That's the other reason for that winter melon name. You can come into our temperate greenhouse. There's another water cooler right here. We're going to kind of walk and talk through this area a little bit. So above we have our passion fruits. So passion fruits have to be hand pollinated in our greenhouses because normally they would be pollinated by bees. Have you guys seen any bees in the greenhouses? No. There are no bees in this greenhouses because we have guests going through a boat ride, we have guests on tour, we can't really have that. So instead we become the worker bees and we hand pollinate each of those passion flowers down there. So those passion flowers will actually grow up into those passion fruit right here. So we've got about 40 or so on the trellis right now, which is pretty good for us. We had a little bit of trouble because of that cold spell in Florida. However, they perked back up and here we are. We also have right there at our tomato arch, all of those tomatoes come from 4 plants. So just 4 plants are making all of those tomatoes on that tomato arch. So basically we're just taking those different shoots that are coming up, weaving them back into the trellis, and then we're able to keep growing those tomatoes. All of our tomatoes are indeterminate varieties, so as long as we're giving them that space and those nutrients, they will keep growing for us. So this is our temperate greenhouses where we're growing more of those different types of staple foods around the world. So across the canal we have things like corn, we have things like sugar cane. Over here we have things like quinoa and wheat as well as sorghum. So lots of different types of things that you normally find in the Midwest are growing here. We also have things like our fig trees. So if you look up, there's 2 baby figs up there right now. So those will actually ripen out into that purple color used for those figs, and we're able to actually grow figs off of here. So figs are actually self-pollinating, so we don't have to worry about them at all. Normally in nature they're pollinated by these wasps, but we have self-pollinated varieties here.
These plants are definitely on their way up.
And then in this middle row we also have our pomegranates. There is 1 single pomegranate that is hanging on right there. So we're hoping to get a few more pomegranates from these trees in a few months. We also have our coffee plants right here. So you guys might have known about coffee beans, but there are coffee cherries on these plants. So the coffee cherries are hanging on that middle one right there, kind of closer to the actual center stem itself. They start off green, ripen to red, and then what you'll actually do is you'll peel off those 2 coffee beans inside of there. So you'll actually roast those down, dry those down, and then you'll crush them up into that powder. It takes about 30 cherries to make 1 cup of coffee. So that's why some of your Starbucks drinks can be kind of expensive. We also have our apple boards here. So our apple boards, I told you, everything in this greenhouse is edible. So these guys, the leaves are actually edible, so you can use those in things like salads. However, what most people use them for around the world is this. So we take those apple boards, we'll dry them down. Right now in here, it's either seed storage or even things like a musical instrument. They're used in lots of arts and crafts around the world. However, those leaves are still edible, so you can use all parts of this plant. We're going to be coming up on to our actual citrus tree area. So our first citrus tree is our 9-pound lemon. So with our 9-pound lemon, there's some pretty large lemons up here. It's a normal type of lemon, just a different variety, the 9-pound lemon variety. However, if we come around the corner here, you look straight up, you can see one that's starting to yellow out right now. So that one is hopefully averaging that 9 pounds. We've grown them up to 13 pounds before. Normal type of lemon, just a different variety. So it's the same taste, same texture, everything along those lines, just a whole lot more lemon to it. One of those big lemons can make 1 gallon of lemonade. We also have our pomelo here, so the father of the grapefruit. So you have that pomelo, you crossed it with a sweet orange, and that's how you got that grapefruit. So there are 2 pomelos on here right now. If you kind of follow that red Velcro up, you'll see those 2 big green pomelos. And then finally, our last one is our citron, but it's a different variety. It's a Buddhist hand variety. So with this one, it kind of looks like a green arthritic hand to start. It'll open up to those 5 points on there and actually ripen to that yellow color, kind of looking like a hand. So each of those, like I said, are different types of citrus trees that we have. We also have things like hollyhocks, more of those edible flowers we're talking about that you can actually use. So hollyhocks don't necessarily have a taste themselves much, but they do kind of leave a spicy aftertaste. Nasturtium flowers are known for being those types of spicy flowers. Most other types of flowers, they kind of taste like you would assume a flower would taste. So around here at Sunshine Seasons, we actually kind of throw those on our different types of cupcakes and things along those lines. However, anyone around the Walt Disney World restaurants can actually ask for those types of edible flowers as well. So we're going to take a pause here for a moment. We're about to walk into our aqua cell. Our aqua cell gets a little bit loud, but that's where we do our aquaculture or our fish farming. So the reason for doing aquaculture, it's a more sustainable and ethical way of getting your seafood. So if you're talking about harvesting, what you're doing out of the ocean, you would harvest that, fish that out, and that would be the end of the story. However, with aquaculture, we actually have those natural populations. So we're not having to pull anything out of the ocean, and we're able to just kind of keep producing our own seafood. So when you guys go scuba diving or snorkeling, you still get to see all those really cool types of fish out there. However, you also have that seafood at the end of the day you can go back to. We kind of have a smaller aquaculture facility, but we'll kind of look through what we have here. So starting off here, these are our freshwater shrimp. So they're not like the breaded shrimp you're thinking of. They're more of those shrimp cocktails or those prawns. So with these freshwater shrimp, there's a few of them in each of these tubes. One of them will have a blue claw. That blue claw is the dominant male. So when that dominant male passes, the next one will step up in line. It will molt just like this and grow its own blue claw. So there will always be at least one blue claw in these set of tubes. But we have other types of things in our aquaculture facility, including our catfish. So right here we have our adult catfish. Across the canal we kind of have our younger catfish, or adolescent catfish. So when catfish are younger, they prefer being in those like schools of fish. They prefer being in big groups together. But as they get older, they kind of want to be a little bit more separate. They want to be a little bit more alone. So generally, they're not going to hang out too much in a school of fish like these guys will. That's why these adults have a lot more space than, say, the kind of younger ones are doing. Across the canal, to the left side, we have our sturgeon, which sturgeon is where you get caviar from. And then finally over here, we tropical environment. So things like the bananas here. So with our bananas, we actually allow them to grow a year and a half. So for that first year, they're gonna get nice and tall. For that last 6 months, he will drop that flower and get that banana bundle. So it's a year and a half from actually being planted all the way to getting these banana bundles ripened. So this flower will drop, the banana bundles will grow upwards, and then after that, they will kind of ripen out to that yellow color. So once this plant is done, that's it. There's only one banana bundle from each banana plant. However, don't worry, banana plants aren't going anywhere. They're actually pretty invasive. So what happens is we planted one banana plant right here, and now there's about 8 to 10 in the area. So they actually send up little shoots or pups that keep those banana plants growing. So we have one around the other side that is actually, was just last week growing 3 different bundles of bananas at the same time. So that's kind of how that banana plant keeps going. It's continuously growing. Yes, absolutely. So they do have more of that sweet flavor to them. The ones, the ice cream bananas on the other side are like by far the sweetest variety. I was talking about those Cavendish before. So the Cavendish variety is those ones that you normally find in your grocery stores. Those are their most common ones. But we have things like ice cream bananas here. So ice cream bananas are a whole lot smaller, a whole lot sweeter. So we've actually got a bundle right here. So this flower is probably dropped in the last month and a half or so. So it'll take a few more months before we actually get any of those banana bundles off of it. But these guys aren't going to get much longer than this. Instead, they'll just kind of fill out and turn to that yellow color. So we're also coming up on our kind of our tree patio area. So we have things like tamarinds, mangoes, we have plums, golden plums over there. We have miracle fruit right here, and lychee, cacao. Does anyone know what miracle fruit is? Has anyone dealt with miracle fruit before? So miracle fruit is actually this little red miracle fruits on there. So when you eat them, they don't really have a flavor themselves necessarily, but 30 minutes, for the next 30 minutes, everything you taste will be a little bit sweeter after that. It doesn't change the flavor, but it does make it a little bit sweeter what you're trying after that. So that's kind of something fun that we can do it over in like our support greenhouses. I think the interns get to do that, of trying those miracle fruits and then trying some of those different types of plants out. We also have our cacao tree right here. So cacao being where you get chocolate from. Excellent. Chocolate, my favorite food. So we start here. And our cacao. Those are kind of the seed pods on there. So on the inside there's those white outer coating with those seeds in there. You'll ferment that down, get rid of that white outer coating. You'll dry it down, and then you'll actually grind that up into that powder. If you want to taste anything like milk chocolate, we have a whole lot of milk and sugar. So that's kind of how we actually get those sugar and lots of places. We also have our dragon fruit. With working with hand pollinate, what we end up doing is kind of shake this entire plant, the pollen falls down, and then we actually stick that pollen inside of that tube and then flick it all the way down to where it gets there. So we just did that with that one, so hopefully that will actually produce a dragon fruit. It takes a few months for that dragon fruit to actually go from being pollinated all the way to being ripened. However, what we're hoping for is more things like this dragon fruit. We've got a few on the one in Creative. We've got a few different like pink ones over there, but we're hoping to get a few more on these as well. Does anyone have a guess as to what the oldest plant in this greenhouse is? There's a few pretty old ones in here. Any guesses on the oldest one? So the oldest plant in this greenhouse is actually this Mickey pepper right here. So Mickey pepper does produce peppers for us. What happens is they start off green, they ripen to red. You dry them down, they turn black, and you peel off that black outer coating and they turn white. So all those peppercorn mixes from the same black pepper plant, they're just harvested slightly different. So all those have slightly different flavors to them, like you would assume they would, and that's why they're kind of mixed together. Second oldest plant is our big date palm in the middle. Our date palm is 13 years old. So we started him from seed. It's grown all the way that entire height. It's getting a little bit too tall right now, but it does actually produce those dates as well. Any questions about anything you're seeing in the greenhouse? Right now we have things like our spice garden around us. So things like stevia, we have horseradish there. I'm pretty sure we just put lavender right over there. So lots of different spices in this little area. Some that actually start off green and ripen to red as well. So those are our dwarf red varieties. So not everything comes to that yellow color at the end of everything. Some things come to that green color when they're ripened. Some things come to that red color. So lots of different varieties of bananas around the world. Yes.
Why would that be?
So, the Living with the Land boat ride, the entire attraction that goes through, is sponsored by Chiquita. At one point, we've had different sponsors over the years, so some of those bigger types of food companies, but Chiquita is our current sponsor. So across the canal to the left side, I told you we had our sturgeon over there. Sturgeon is where you get caviar from. So the reason that things like caviar are so expensive is that sturgeon actually takes 14 years to mature before you get that caviar from it. 14 years before you can actually get any caviar from that sturgeon. Whereas things like tilapia only take about 6 to 9 months to grow. So that's a whole lot faster of a turnaround time. For example, we used to grow tomatoes all the way up to the ceiling, which wasn't that great because then we had to get ladders up there to harvest those. If you were short my feet, you couldn't work in these greenhouses at all. But we actually kind of took this idea from the University of Arizona of growing things kind of at an angle, kind of moving them down, growing them more horizontal across. So that's how we were able to get this lead and lower system here within the last few years or so. So there's a lot of different things along those lines. Things like our verticrop, our NFT system, those are all pretty recent changes in the last few decades or so compared to when we were at opening day.